I'm Jim McElroy. It has been truly a beautiful morning. We have in the neighborhood of 3,000 to 3,500 people here, Debbie, to see the Sail home.
And they've got about 3,000 people on the sail. You know, it seems like we've been waiting here for hours since dawn. And that's nothing compared to how long those guys out there have been waiting to see all their loved ones. This has been probably one of the most exciting days for me. I feel so very blessed to be out here today. Are they coming off now?
Yes, we're having some of the crewmen, and I believe these are some of the officers that are coming off right now. Interesting to note that the men who have new babies, men who have wives with new babies and haven't seen them before, they will be the first ones to allowed to come off so they can see all of those new children. But I believe those are officers that are coming off of the boat, off of the ship right now. USS Saratoga coming home after a long deployment out in the Mediterranean. There have been a lot of carriers coming and going, of course, over the years, but this has special interest because this is probably the most significant mission that Saratoga has been on since Libya bombed.
That's what we were told earlier by Navy officials here. They could think of nothing else that has been more exciting, more eventful, and we're going to be talking about that later, but of course you recall that they played a major part, the Saratoga, in catching the Achille Lauro hijackers and, of course, what happened in Libya. So this is certainly exciting for all of us. Now, exciting also for John Nicholson, who happens to be right in the thick of things, right down where these guys are coming off to meet their loved ones. John!
Exciting and loud, Debbie and Jim. We are down here now just about 30 or 40 feet away from where the men are coming down. The folks here are just silent at this moment in anticipation. You hear a lot about the wives and the sweethearts waiting for the men. You don't hear so much about the moms and the dads. Well, you're going to hear about them now. We have with us now a couple from Gainesville, Florida, Charles and Janet, and they have a son named Mark aboard the ship. Janet, tell me, what time did you get here this morning?
About 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock. You've been here almost 8 hours now. Why did you come so early?
To be up front so I can see the boat come in.
All right, now, Charles, tell me something about your son, Mark.
Well, he graduated from college, and he's E4, and he belongs to the 85th Squadron on the Saratoga.
Now, this has been kind of
Oceana, Virginia.
Has this been kind of a scary time for you with the Libyan situation?
Yes, but I'm sure he did his job that he had to do.
Now, you mentioned that he's headquartered up in Virginia. Do you suppose you'll see him for very long while he's here?
Hopefully for at least a couple of weeks.
Now, tell me, what are you going to say to him when you see him?
I'm just going to grab a hold of him and kiss him and hug him and tell him how much I miss him and I love him.
I bet he'll say the same. Now, Charles, something we talked about before. A handshake or a hug?
Hug and a kiss.
All right. We have with us some folks all the way here from Houston, Texas, an entire family, and they're here to greet whom? All right, tell me about Kenneth. What kind of a guy is he?
Oh, good guy. Good guy. Very intelligent.
Very intelligent. All right. And a great greeting for him and for all the folks here. Now let's get back upstairs to you, Jim and Debbie.
All right, thank you, John. And if it has not already been noted, let it be noted that the fast frigate Paul is also back with about 280 men on board that fast frigate, having seen service as well in the Mediterranean. Now, there's a big emblem out there on the ship, emblems that we see throughout the crowd, and that is the Terrorist Busters emblem. What they did is they took that old Ghostbusters emblem, and they put the wording underneath it, you can run, but you can't hide. The words coming from President Reagan, making reference to the successful recent efforts the United States has had against Syria.
We're also seeing a lot of Gaddafi kickers and that sort of thing. And of course, Dad, we're so glad you're home. We love you. Hi, babe, and all the typical stuff. You know, there have been several sign contests in Jacksonville. Banners. Who could make the largest banner to welcome home to Saratoga? And I believe the Guardian Angels did. They sewed 57 sheets together, and they showed, in fact, the Saratoga emblem, the crown, and that. We're going to be back in just about a couple of minutes.
This Newswatch 17 special report is brought to you by Pick and Save and your Florida and South Georgia Ford dealers.
Debbie Farrow and Jim McElroy live again from Mayport. Behind us, you can see the USS carrier Saratoga. The sailors, officers are getting off. They're meeting their loved ones. This is truly the most exciting day in Jacksonville that I can recall.
And Debbie, those enlisted men with the new babies, they have come off as well. As a matter of fact, the ship is rapidly emptying out, as Debbie has already pointed out, in excess of 2,000 people on board the Saratoga. So it's going to be a wonderful sight to see the reunions of the families, those new children and whatnot, with all the crew members. Now, we want to show you some videotape that was shot earlier. This Newswatch crew that went out out on board the Saratoga, as several dignitaries were taken out by helicopter as well. Among them, Council President Bill Basford, Jim Atkins, another councilman. The beach's mayors were out there as well. Many dignitaries who were brought out in advance. They were presenting keys to the city and this type of thing, wanting to let the crew of the Saratoga know well in advance that Jacksonville, the beaches, and all surrounding communities, the First Coast, welcoming them with open arms back once again to Mayport Naval Station. Again, they were flown out before the Saratoga actually got in. The Saratoga stayed out at sea about 4 or 5 miles for some time because they had to wait for the tide change to take place. The Sarah drawing a lot of water, and they had to wait for the basin to fill up a little more.
Now, earlier, the fast frigate USS Hawkeye came in. They didn't have to wait so long for the tide to come in. And it was John Nicholson who was down there, helped welcome these men back in. There were about 300 men there. John Nicholson is, of course, down in the crowd, right in the thick of things, and we're going to go to him now. John.
Debbie and Jim, there was quite a crowd, obviously, here for the Saratoga's arrival. This crowd is still gathered around me, but there was also a pretty good crowd, considering the size, for the fast frigate Paul. Some 200 and some odd people aboard that ship, and there's been some discussion here around the base recently. Hey, what is all the publicity about the Saratoga? Fair enough, but how about mentioning the Paul? Well, we have been mentioning the Paul lately. These people obviously also have been through a tough job for a long period of time, and now they came home today. Now, on the shore, we had a lot of people waiting with the same sort of anticipation, obviously, that we have here for the Saratoga. They did not have quite as long a wait. The Paul has been docked now for more than an hour. We talked with a couple of people and their husbands who had arrived. One couple named Beverly and John, they've been married for 12 years. The other, Carla and Dean. Carla and Dean were married 2 months when Dean went off on the ship, and that was some 8 months ago. So out of their 10 months married, they were only 2 months together. Let's hear what they had to say.
I'm pretty relieved right now. I'm pretty ecstatic. It's so great to see them safe and sound.
How's it feel to be home?
Great, absolutely great. It was a long trip, but it was feeling great to be back.
Now, tell me what you were thinking when you saw this lovely lady down there waving to you.
Well, actually, it made me realize just how long I had been gone, and now that it's over, I can just hope that it's as long waiting for the next one before we have to go again.
That was Beverly and John. As far as Dean and Carla, they said pretty much the same thing, except, boy, are we going to spend some time together. Jim, Debbie?
Thank you, John. Now, some of the pictures you will see today, you will see gentlemen wearing blue T-shirts with some writing on it. Those are civilians. Civilians came across from Spain to the United States aboard the Saratoga. They're called the Tiger Crew, and they are relatives of a lot of the men on board, fathers, sons, this kind of thing. It is a routine procedure, the Navy tells us. They like to have some of these sons and fathers on board. They get a good idea of what's going on aboard the Saratoga, and of course, get to spend time with fathers and sons in their own right. And you're looking at pictures right now from the Sky Team as it hovers above the Mayport Basin.
You know, we're delighted to be showing you this heartwarming welcome home today. There have been others, though, recently. You may recall that the pilot on board the USS Saratoga came home a few days ago, and that was also wonderful to see. Earlier this week, the Sarah sent its fire squadrons home to Cecil Field. The crowds were a little smaller than the mob of families and friends here at Mayport today, but just as enthusiastic. The pilots and crew members that arrived earlier are Fighter Attack Squadrons 81 and 83 and Air Anti-Submarine Squadrons 30. During their 8 months of deployment, the squad saw plenty of action in the tension-filled Mediterranean. These squads were part of an airstrike that dared to defy Gaddafi's line of death in the Gulf of Sidra.
And the crewmen of the Saratoga continue to come off of that big ship. A huge ship at that. I was looking at some of the research, some of the data about the ship, and when they dropped anchors, it made quite a splash, Debbie. Each of those anchors weighs 30 tons apiece. It is a tremendous ship, one that has recently celebrated an anniversary. It was 30 years ago on April 14th that the Saratoga was commissioned and put into use by the Navy.
Celebrating its 30-year anniversary. You know, Jacksonville isn't the only port celebrating like today. Charleston and Norfolk, Virginia also have aircraft carriers and ships coming in from their duty out there in the Mediterranean. We're going to have more here from Mayport in just a minute.
Newswatch 17 special report is brought to you by Pick and Save and your Florida and South Georgia Ford dealers.
Very proud day for all Americans, and especially for those of us who live along the first coast. The American flag is flying very high these days, Debbie.
Oh, this is so exciting. We've seen plenty of American flags. We've seen yellow ribbons and, of course, balloons. So we love you, balloons. And it looks like we've got quite a few more people to go here, Jim. Total of almost 3,000 men on board that, so it's going to take a little while.
Yes, it did. Now, what we want to do at this point is we want to recap the recent history of the Saratoga, the many tasks that she has had to perform since she set sail last fall. Let's take a look at that videotape. It was 8 months ago the USS Saratoga left Mayport for a routine tour in the Mediterranean Sea. But there would be nothing routine about this mission. On October 10th, 2 of its jet fighters successfully intercepted an Egyptian plane flying over the Mediterranean. Aboard the Egyptian plane, 4 Palestinian gunmen who had hijacked the cruise ship Achille Lauro. 1 American civilian, Leon Klinghoffer, was killed in that incident. From there, the Saratoga traveled through the Suez Canal into the Indian Ocean. It conducted maneuvers in those waters for 2 months before returning to the Mediterranean in mid-January. 3 times between January and March, the Saratoga positioned itself off the coast of Libya, and 3 times the Saratoga flaunted its military readiness, sending aircraft over waters Libyan officials say were off limits. The showdown finally came in late March.
306 it was actually. We launched the response in the form of harm missiles fired by the May 7 from the Saratoga. It hit the square pair radars that service the SA-5 site. It hit another radar. The SA-5 site is out of action.
The Saratoga successfully sank 2 Libyan ships which had opened fire on the aircraft carrier. And finally, 10 days ago, the Saratoga began its long trek home. And at this time, we should not forget that there are still some Mayport ships that are over in the Mediterranean right now, still very much on alert because of the ongoing activities in the Med and off the coast of Libya. But today, a day of celebration.
You know, I know that there were some wives concerned about the Sarah having to go immediately back over in the Med, but we have been pretty much assured that that's not going to happen. We're glad to report. You know, probably of all of us here from Channel 17 who are out here at Mayport, John Nicholson has the most enviable job because he's down there where all the real celebrating is going on. John.
Debbie and Jim, I've got a man here who's doing us a great favor. He has stopped off for just a few seconds before he goes to meet his wife. Let's talk to this sailor. Anthony, how are you?
Fine, glad to be home.
Where are you from?
Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
How was it out there?
Long, very long and lonely, but we survived.
Now tell us, who are you looking for?
Looking for my wife, Georgia. Out here somewhere
Somewhere in this spring?
in the south.
Now, what are you going to say to her when you see her, Anthony?
I'm going to tell her how much I love her. That's what I'm going to do.
And then what is going to do after that, do you suppose you can tell us for family consumption?
Go home.
And relax.
That's it.
All right, thank you so much for stopping. Welcome home.
Okay, thank you.
Jim and Debbie, back up to you.
All right, thank you, John. John Nicholson helping us out today. Joining us live directly in front of the Saratoga, talking to all the happy families, the husbands, wives, and, of course, the parents. They're very, very eager to see those sons come off safe and sound.
You know, as we said, we've been here for several hours, and Jim and I have been scanning the skies all over the place, looking for some dignitary, hopefully President Reagan. We were really saddened to learn that he was not going to be here. We did not see any of the black-suited Secret Service men, and Charles Bennett, of course, could not make it either. But still, there are thousands out here to make the crewmen of the Saratoga feel very much loved. And we're going to go to a break. We'll be back shortly.
This Newswatch 17 special report is brought to you by Pick and Save and your Florida and South Georgia Ford dealers.
Once again, live from the Mayport Naval Station, the homecoming of the USS Saratoga. To expand on the point you were making about dignitaries, Debbie, a few moments ago, we were able to speak with Captain Anderson, who is a PIO, Public Information Officer, with the Navy here, stationed in Jacksonville. And he was saying that one reason there were no dignitaries, as an example, Charles Bennett could not make it, President Reagan, the Vice President, any high-ranking officials, because of the events going on right now in Libya. Certainly, you have been brought up to date about the various events happening inside that country. So it was explained to us that most of these high-ranking officials felt the need to stay put in Washington because of all the rapidly changing events.
Which is understandable. We have also been hearing, though, that the U.S. is not involved in any of the, what we've heard is street fighting going on over there in Libya. We'll of course have more on that later. But, you know, it's been 8 months nearly since the crew has been here back in Jacksonville, so we don't think you can see enough of these wonderful welcome homes, and we're going to show you another one. John Nicholson.
All right, we have the people continuing to stream off the ship here, and you've got an interesting mix, Jim and Debbie, of what's going on. You have some people, obviously, who already have gotten together with their wives, sweethearts, moms, dad, what have you, hugging and walking off together. Somebody else takes the sea bag ordinarily and takes a walk. Then you have right over here people who are still waiting to see their boys come off the ship. Tell me, are you becoming impatient?
Yeah, okay, so almost soon.
How far did you come from?
Martinsburg, West Virginia.
That's a good long haul. How long has your son been out there? The whole time? A chance home at all?
Since November of 1986.
All right, now I know some folks got a chance to come home if they had children. But aside from that, it's been a long, long haul. So the people continue to wait with patience. Nobody seems to be complaining very loud. But I guess it's going to be an even better reunion. I hope it will be by the time the folks get off the ship. As I say, Debbie and Jim, they continue to stream down with no apparent end in sight. Back up to you folks.
Well, it looks like we're getting close to the end of the line, Jim. It seems like there are just a few more people, and the crowds are beginning to leave, and it looks like we're going to be in for quite a traffic jam. But we won't talk about that. This is their moment, the USS Saratoga back in town, their time of glory, and I want to give it to them for all it's worth.
Yeah, there was one moment that took place right before the men were allowed to leave the boat. There was a recording played, Lee Greenwood, a country western artist, and it was God Bless the USA. And it was interesting, to say the least, to watch the reaction of the people in the crowd, to watch the reaction of the sailors, and to watch ourselves as emotion definitely began to swell inside. Well, thank you for taking this time to be with us again. We will have complete coverage and all the day's events coming your way tonight at 6 o'clock on Newswatch 17. Until that time, for Debbie Ferrero, Jim McElroy, good day.
This Newswatch 17 special report was brought to you by Pick and Save and your Florida and South Georgia Ford dealers.